Alright, I just had to be brave and say it. I'm gonna say what no man has said yet. The Last of Us Part 2 was kind of disappointing. No, I'm obviously just kidding. Everybody and their mothers have been shitting on this game since the release, and even before, whenever the leaks first came out for this game. But anyways, this is going to be kind of a review of The Last of Us Part 2, and just kind of why I was a little disappointed by the game, and just the effort of Naughty Dog in general. But yeah, I'm just going to say this right now. I don't hate the game or think it's horrible or the worst game ever like so many people are acting like on Twitter and all this stuff. They're acting like it's the worst game that they ever played in their lives and saying all this shit when they haven't even played the game, which is pretty annoying, even though I was also had, concerns with it. But the amount of outrage by people who haven't even played the game is just outrageous. I just think it's kind of caught on right now that it's kind of cool to hate on the game. But anyways, let me just talk about some stuff that I actually liked about the game first before I talk about the stuff that I found disappointing. So Naughty Dog actually did some great things with this game in certain aspects, like the graphics, for example. The graphics are some of the best I've seen in any video game, and it's honestly shocking how good it looks for being on a PS4 or being a PS4 exclusive. The game looks absolutely beautiful, and I have to give the graphics part a 10 out of 10. They look astonishing, and I can't wait till every video game looks as good as that. Another thing I really thought was good that they did was the atmospheres in the game and just the overall sound in the game. Like, everything felt and looked like it was real. And an example of that would be like when you would get shot and a bullet would go by your head, you can literally hear the whizzing in your ears like a bullet's going by you. And also, when you kill an enemy, the AI would basically call out to that enemy that got killed. So they'd basically be like, Danny, for example, if the character's name was Danny, they actually felt like they were real people that cared about their, allies or whatever when they were actually, getting killed, which was cool because I don't really see that in video games either, besides in like cutscenes, for example, maybe. But yeah, those are the things I really enjoyed. And the last thing that I just thought was amazing was the soundtrack for the game, which Naughty Dog blew it out of the water again, like The Last of Us, the first game, just The Last of Us or whatever. That soundtrack was amazing, and so was this one, and I'd give that a 10 out of 10 as well. But other than those things, the game was just pretty average for the most part, and it wasn't amazing on any aspect besides, just the stuff I already mentioned. But before I get into the bad stuff, I just want to warn everybody, I will go into spoilers and some of the bad stuff just to get my points across, because I feel like I can't really explain what I'm talking about if I don't go into some things that happen, because, that's obviously a huge reason why I don't like the game is what happened in the game. So the main overall problem with the game, and this is what pretty much everybody that, has played it kind of has this opinion, is that the story is pretty bad, and, I'd have to agree heavily. I think the story was just pretty average. It was just a classic revenge story the whole time, and that just kind of took away from the amazing story writing of the first game. So right when you start the game, within the first 2 hours, the main character from the first game, and basically the whole franchise of The Last of Us, before this game, was brutally killed by Abby, which is a character that you basically play as for like 5 minutes before this happened. And you have no idea why she even kills him in the beginning, and you don't really understand until like 15 hours later when Abby randomly has a flashback of her father getting, killed in the hospital, at the end of the first game. Basically when Joel was trying to save Ellie from getting killed, the doctors were trying to find, a treatment for the infection, basically. And, Joel basically took that away from everybody in the world, and I see that he needed to be punished and killed, but I think that they did it pretty wrong. They killed him basically without him even being on the screen for like 10 minutes. And I just feel like they did Joel wrong in that situation where they basically killed him without even making a big deal out of it, I guess. But yeah, after Joel dies, basically half the game is Ellie trying to get revenge and trying to kill Abby for what she did to Joel. And honestly, that part just pretty much just sucked overall, because basically that whole 10 hours that you play as Ellie, this is all that happens. You basically find out that Dina, Ellie's new girlfriend, is actually pregnant, And the baby's father is Jesse, another character that you have no idea who he is or anything because he's only been on the screen for a few minutes. That's a pretty common theme in this game, barely knowing characters or having no character development at all in this game. You don't really feel anything for any of the characters like Dina or Jesse because you don't know anything about them. They're basically not even in the game. And there's just no real reason to actually have, strong emotions towards them, especially when they're just average, basic characters that you know nothing about. I mean, Jesus Christ, even Ellie didn't even have any personality in this game at all, which really sucks because in the first game she had a ton of personality, very charismatic and interesting to listen to. And even in the flashbacks of this game, whenever they flash back to, 4 years later and when she was supposed to be in the same, time period as the first game, she even had a pretty good personality. In the present timeline and the, where the game mostly takes place, Ellie's just basically just an asshole the whole time. She doesn't really have much personality. She's not funny. She's just a killing machine. It just kind of sucks because the first game had so much character development and the characters had personalities and they felt like real people. And this game, pretty much no one had an actual personality. I guess the only real connection that I actually kind of enjoyed was Owen and Abby sometimes, which I don't even think that was even that interesting either. Almost all of the good scenes in the game were all flashbacks, and it just felt like there was just too much going on. Sometimes Abby would have a flashback, and then she would have a flashback of a flashback, and it's like, what is going on? I don't know. It just felt like there was just too much stuff that was just weird, and everything just felt out of order. I just kind of feel like Joel should have died later in the game, and there should have been parts with Ellie and Joel together in the beginning, and then maybe kind of showed Abby's journey to getting to where Joel was to kill him, and then he can still die the same exact way. I just feel like the game was badly organized. Like somebody would die in the present time of the game, and you would have no idea who they were at all, or knew nothing about the character, so you wouldn't understand the significance of their death until 15 hours after of playing, that you'd get one flashback basically kind of explaining what that character's about, like Nora, for example, or Manny. And all these characters were just extras, and they were supposed to be a big deal in the game, I guess, but none of them felt like they were characters, or their death had no significance just because of how poorly organized the game was and just everything. I don't know. It was just poorly written overall. I feel like it was kind of a waste of time as well because the whole story is about how Ellie is supposed to get her revenge on Abby for killing Joel. And they also explained why Abby was killing Joel in the first place. And then showed a bunch of flashbacks of why Abby is kind of a good person, which I don't think one event that she did makes her a good person. That was kind of all they did, is just showed one good thing that Abby did to make her basically seem like she's not an asshole when she pretty much is to everybody except one or two people. But overall, the game just kind of felt like a waste or a throwaway story because at the end, Ellie, after everything she's done, killed so many countless people, innocent people sometimes. She gets her opportunity to kill Abby and she lets her go, which would have been okay, and it's okay to let her go, but I just felt like with that being the whole story, basically the whole game, 20 hours, which I felt like was a little bit too long as well for this style of game. But with the game being that long, and that's kind of your goal of the game, is to get to Abby for 10 hours of it, and then when you finally get there, they basically blue ball you and they don't let you kill her. And then it just feels like the story could have ended like an hour earlier, 2-3 hours earlier, if they weren't going to have you kill Abby in the first place. I mean, I don't know, that's just my opinion. I just feel like the game story was pretty disappointing, and a lot of it just didn't even make sense. And yeah, that's pretty much all I really wanted to say about the game. I'm gonna give a rating for it right now. I'd probably give it a 6.5 out of 10. And yeah, as I said before, I don't think it's a horrible game, but it's not amazing. Like some of these IGN and a bunch of other companies were trying to act like, the game was one of the best games ever created, which it's definitely not, but it's also not the worst game ever created. So I think a 6.5 is fair. And yeah, it kind of sucks that it really didn't live up to the hype, but it was still an okay game. So if you guys enjoyed this review, let me know in the comments and leave a rating if you enjoyed the video. And yeah, peace out, everybody.